ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I am joined by Dogg Brian James, who is one of the hosts of the Oh You Didn't Know podcast.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't know? That's what I say to everything. It's like Smurf. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I've smurfed him in his Smurf. And of course that means I drove him in his car. I don't know what you were thinking, but like, oh, you didn't know is just what I say for everything. So
I live near Philadelphia, so it's like John. Everything's John.
Oh, you didn't know? See, that's how it works. It's crazy.
So
not funny either.
So Ryan Katz is with you on this show. You both have various histories with WWE creative team. Talk to me a little bit about how that happened. Was that the obvious link? You guys just knew each other from behind the scenes, or what made this show make sense for you?
So I had met Ryan, years back when he first started working at NXT. It wasn't even NXT yet. It was FCW at the time. Excuse me. And he was one of the first hires. So he's been around a while. And then the last, I'd say 3 years that I was with WWE and at NXT, I worked very closely with Ryan. I got to see how talented he was and how many hats he could wear. And look, I'm always clinging on to people so I can ride their coattails. I did it with Jeff Jarrett. I did it with Billy Gunn. I'm doing it now with Ryan Katz. But he's an incredibly talented dude, and he has been inspirational and influential in making a lot of these stars. He was there during the Bray Wyatts of the world, and when Dusty was there, so he was Dusty's right hand man. He's just got a ton of experience, and he's a very talented individual. So when Conrad and we talked about doing this podcast, I just said like, hey, do you have a guy in house, or could I suggest somebody? You know what I mean? And Conrad was eager to jump on that because I think he knows what Ryan brings to the table. I don't know if everybody does. I feel like he gets the short end of the stick sometimes, but he's a very talented dude and has the respect of a lot of huge stars in our industry.
Yeah. I remember when the PC first opened, I got to take a tour, and I think Bill DeMott and maybe somebody else were talking how much they liked working with Ryan.
Yeah.
And Kevin Kleinrock, who now runs Masked Republic, knew him from like when they worked in the California independent scene, and Wrestling Society X too. So
yeah, he used to be he used to wrestle. He's wrestled a few times, and so he was always out in California doing stuff on indie shows, with indie shows, and booking indie shows. And so, yeah, man, he wears a ton of hats, and it's thank God I got him. He can hold it all together when I start bumping my head into the wall.
Mm-hmm. Now, WWE releases happen. It seems like it's, business as usual, or I don't know how you want to look at it, but you've been on different sides of it. You've been there while others were getting cut. You yourself got released. Now you're on the other side of it. One of the more surprising names, I think, besides Malcolm Bivens, Dakota Kai, and not to take anything away from anybody else, but Dexter Lumis, was very creative. Just, looking at maybe working with them yourself, now looking at what they do, maybe, we just started talking tonight about what NXT 2.0 is. What are you kind of looking at, like what some of these talent can offer another company, or what kind of potential you think they have that they can still show somebody?
Yeah, and timing is everything, and I don't know if now is great timing to be released, just because WWE is making cuts, AEW is hired everybody, so they can't. That's not sustainable. You know what I mean? They can't just continue to hire everybody that's released. So it's a little bit of but I'll tell you this much: the indie scene, the convention scene, the wrestling world is bustle right now. I'm doing things that I never thought I'd do with farm animals. Sorry, that's for a different podcast. I'm I'm glad you thought I was serious there. No, I'm doing all these autograph signings and these seminars and these meet and greets. And so, man, there's so many opportunities out there right now in the wrestling world. And I think we don't think a lot about the impacts of the world and the Ring of Honor coming back around. And so, maybe they can hire on a few extra hands and stock up the Ring of Honor card. You know what I mean? Like if they made that like a contender, they might could run live events with a good, cool Ring of Honor card and a roster. They could make a great roster out of that too.
Did we specified Dexter? Did he ever draw you?
Oh yeah. So yeah, he drew all kind of stuff. We used to write him to draw pictures on NXT all the time because he's a genius artist, I think with Dexter, look, Sam's a great guy. I'm a huge fan of his. I love his work. I love he's already going back to the artist stuff I saw on social media. So I'm digging that because that's what he kind of wants to wrap his or sink his teeth into, is that crazy artist character that we didn't really dive into too much there. We started to, but then we went in a different direction. But yeah, I think what his deal was I think his age, you know what I mean? Like, yes, he's not 40, but he ain't 25 either. You know what I mean? And then right now what they're trying to do is get as many young talent up and running as they possibly can, because then you're going to see a few of those thoroughbreds stick out and you're going to go, okay, so there's so-and-so, we're going to send her to SmackDown. We're going to send him to Raw. We're going to, you know what I mean? Because that's what NXT was originally. It became, because of the TV rights deal, a third brand, but it was never really intended to be a third brand, and it was never thought about from a business standpoint as a third brand. It was kind of always thought of really high up as developmental. And so I think it got away from its roots a little bit. I think Vince came down there and said, we're going to do things a little differently now. I think he saw an opportunity to do that and he took it, you know what I mean? And I think that's how he's wanted it to be run. So that's how it's being run now.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting way to look at it too. It's as popular as it was, and look at all the takeover events and how big it got. There was an opportunity to sort of do it in the past year.
A complete third brand. And look, I thought when we were kind of doing that, it worked. But it doesn't matter what I think, you know what I mean? Like I'm not on the investor calls, holding them. So it doesn't matter what I think. And look, it's also, he being Vince didn't get to be where he is and who he is by being not smart. You know what I mean? With finances and with business decisions. And so you think like, oh, they sold out some takeovers. Okay, well, is that making up for the money that's being spent down there on you know what I mean? Like look, firing me was a business decision. Was it a decision that I approved of? Heck no. You know what I mean? But acceptance doesn't mean approval. And so while I have to accept, they made a business decision and I was not a part of that business decision. Yeah. They needed to trim some fat and I'm fat. So I totally understand all that. It is a business. It's no hard feelings. I texted with Vince after that. It's all good. You know what I mean? Like, how could I be angry at the company and the man that literally gave me a second chance at life and both personally and professionally, and then paid me for 10 years and gave me all kind of, life experience. Yes. So I don't know, you can be bitter if you want to, but how's that taste?
Yeah. And you know what? I would argue that the NXT 2.0, the transition was probably, leading up to it in, social media is almost like an echo chamber, but I feel like the transition over and now it's just so widely accepted and it's kind of like, oh yeah, the Band-Aid's off. Like it's actually a fun show to watch. They're doing some of the stuff that they did in the early 90s. And that's why we watched in the first place.
That's why. And look, I think they're going back to being a little more wrestling than sports entertainment down there, but yet they are filling it up with characters and different larger than life, individual talents. And so, look, there's a ton of talent down there. There's no doubt about that. There's a roster full, even after all the cuts, of young and really talented individuals, man. You see the Tony D'Angelo's of the world. You see the Braun Breaker out of nowhere, and he's undeniable. You see Cora Jade is like 21 years old and getting reps, and man, can you imagine when she's 25? You know what I mean? She's been working on TV for 5 years at that point. So also Nikita Lyons. Nikita Lyons. Yeah, she's very talented girl. When she gets her sea legs on her in the ring, she's a triple threat, man, because she can rap, she can dance, she can sing, and she don't mind doing it. And she's a superstar, man. They got a lot of talent down there. I'm excited about what they're doing. And you're right. It's just like when you think back and you go, oh, they changed Fergal McDivitt or whatever his name was, Verbal Schunderschwerner to Finn Balor. Oh my God, the world's going to end. It's the end of and now it's just like Finn Balor, yay, you know what I mean? Like it hurts for a minute when they change something that you were used to. You know what I mean? And you go, well, that sucks. And then in 6 months, you forgot about that and you have a t-shirt with the new name on it. You know what I mean? So it's we as a fan base, and I say we because I'm a huge wrestling fan. We want what we want. And we want it right now. And that's not realistic. You know what I mean? It's just not.
Usually I ask for match recommendations. I do a watch list feature. So if you can narrow it down, what's your most memorable match that you've been a part of?
As far as my match, the match I have that's most memorable was probably the dumpster match, at Mania. But there are some lesser ones that really meant a lot to me. There's one with me and Boss Man for the hardcore title. I cut a promo up front of the match to challenge him, make him put up the title for the match. Then he did. And then Mick Foley got involved and we screwed him and I won the hardcore title. But that was a really cool match. And I really loved the Bubba, and you know what I mean? Just all of it comes together to make it really memorable for me personally. And then there's one when I was the roadie that was Scott Hall and Kevin Nash versus Jeff Jarrett and Shawn Michaels. And I was the roadie. And we did that for probably 3 months straight every night. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it was so smooth and so laid out and so perfect. Like it was just the perfect match. And it just worked that way every night. Like we never had a bad one. And I don't think we ever did that on TV. I think it was just all a live event loop that we did that. But yeah, so there's three that I've got paid the most for the Mania dumpster match, of course.
Yeah. That's a classic.
That matters. It matters.
And then you had an Intercontinental title reign, so there's probably some stuff you can.
Yeah, that lasted like a week, right? That was. I think
it's in the record books.
Yeah, it is. I was the Intercontinental champion. You know what I remember about that time the most is that I honestly think they put the title, because remember Billy was the hardcore champion for a minute too, right through that time period, and I was the Intercontinental champion. And I think they literally, like, if you look at Billy and you look at me, I'm not the Intercontinental champion. You know what I mean? Billy looks like that. Billy looks like the Intercontinental champion. I look like the hardcore champion. So I just felt like they put those titles on us to try to keep us afloat a little bit, and then realized like, oh, we put the wrong title on the wrong guy. And literally, if you remember, like I lost the Intercontinental title. It was like literally like a week or 2 weeks or something.
Yeah.
And then I won the hardcore title not long after that. So yeah, it was, I don't know I don't remember much of the Intercontinental title run because there wasn't much of an Intercontinental title run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think you guys won the respective titles on the same show.
Oh, is that? Yeah. That's and probably then I think
right. You lost them not too long after, but that was a pretty cool moment having you both have singles.
And we were, and you're right. It's in the record books, man. I was an Intercontinental champion, and that's, that's, I guess that's cool. It's cool to me.
I think it is.
Yeah.
One of the other things you recently covered, VKM and TNA, that's been getting a lot of attention. One thing I did want to ask about was a little bit before it was VKM, you were part of Three Live Crew, was sort of my introduction, those early days of TNA. The You Are My Sunshine theme song. What was the idea behind that? What was the pitch? Walk me through.
I don't know. We all just said, like, we recorded that song. Of course, we recorded like a couple of different songs that I thought were really good. Like, I listen to them now and still go like, yeah, that's a banger. Look, that's me, even I'm biased. I love myself, but so look, I think the idea was we're going to try to make a song that reflects each of us. You know what I mean? And it was like at the beginning was like an old timey. So it was just a sound effect kind of thing. Like, you are my sunshine, this mother is a bad jam, beware. So it was just all over the place. You know what I mean? It was almost like an Echo and the Bunnymen type thing, but it was just, we're trying to just establish each of our characters. Like, I was the trailer park gangster. Truth was a suntan Superman. And Conan was, I'm not sure what he was. Conan. I think he was just Conan. I'm not sure.
All right. I'll get you out on this. I wanted to get your thoughts on, you mentioned, sort of on one of the other episodes about how Billy's one of your best friends and you still keep in touch. But one of the things that fans are starting to get to see is the Gunn Club, how he is with bringing his sons on to TV.
I love it.
Thoughts on watching them grow? I'm sure you've seen them since they were little kids and having them around the locker room and stuff.
Yeah. And I had no idea they ever wanted to be professional wrestlers. And so, look, the coolest thing, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it right now. The coolest thing in the world for me was to get to wrestle with my father. TNA gave me that opportunity. WWE gave me the opportunity to induct him into the Hall of Fame. Like, things like that are real in a world that's not so real. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And because it's your blood and it's your family. And I couldn't be more proud of his children. I know he is too. I know he's having a blast. I'm going to be with him for the next 3 days, actually, doing some signings of the Northeast. And so he talks about his boys, and look, they're really good. They're learning how to work. And it's not to get Uncle Dave to give them a 5-star match. It's to be entertaining, and it's to entertain people. And if you ask me, that's the name of the game. If there was money in wrestling, Tony Khan wouldn't have had to buy Ring of Honor back. It would have never gone out of business because they had great wrestling. But people want to be entertained too. And so you got to give them a little glitz and glamour. You got to give them a little carny. You got to step right up, folks. And you know what I mean? And show them some shiny stuff but some pyro or whatever. And here we go. That's what people want to be entertained. Jamie Dundee one time said, there ain't a dime in wrestling. And I almost believe that now, you know what I mean? Because look, you're just very few, just really good wrestlers. I mean, there's you can count 5 or 10 tops, you know what I mean? But the ones that were the most famous were horrible in the ring. We could go down and look, I say horrible. I didn't mean that, as everything's hyperbole nowadays. So I'm just joining aboard, but they weren't great workers. They had something other than that people grabbed onto. And that's what they want. They want an emotional investment into this character, into this talent, into whoever this guy is. That's my guy. And I have to be emotionally invested in him And if I'm not, none of it matters. None of it counts. Wins, losses, none of it. If you don't make an emotional investment, attachment to the viewing audience or the live event attendee, you may as well pack it up, Bo.
Yeah, and you can see how much fun they're having. Danhausen getting involved, Billy Ass and the Ass Boys.
Their social media game is just hilarious to me. And that, man, Billy's youngest kid has got so much charisma and just one minute you want to kiss him and the next minute you want to slap him because he's that kind of kid, but he's got something, man. He's got something that I want. You know what I mean? I want to watch him. I want to follow him around because he's that kind of exciting dude just to be next to. I've spent a lot of time with him on these signings because Billy has brought him, and man, I've gotten to know him as almost like peers a little bit. You know what I mean? And so funny, so entertaining, so athletic, huge stars. They're going to be huge stars. And if they're not, it's somebody else's fault. That's for damn sure.
Oh, you didn't know? Podcast Heat weekly. I did it right this time.
You did. You did it great. Thank you so much for
that. Weekly Podcast Heat. Check it out. Road Dogg, Ryan Katz. Looking forward to seeing what you have in the pipeline. You can get the first 5 episodes now as we're recording it. I think it drops tomorrow morning, the next one. So
tomorrow morning. If this runs right, it's the episode with my brother Scott. And so it's a fun episode.
All right. Thanks again for your time.
Hey, thank you very much.